Chapter 19. My Yellow Notebook. Hey, I exhaled rather breezily. Do you mind if I check my makeup in here? Hey, Cheri, he said, with the usual intensity behind his eyes. Sure, go ahead. I set my books down on the dresser and brought my purse over to the mirror so I could touch up my eyeliner and brush my hair. Caesar watched me curiously with my books. How are you today? I said, really wanting to know. Okay, he said, sounding completely dejected. I decided not to mention Lisa because the sex was consensual and it wasn't my business. His mood permeated the whole room with a quiet demand to respond. Just okay? I repeated, not believing him. I'm just so bored, he said, with the emphasis on so and bored. There's nothing to do, he went on, as though the world were an unyielding field of black and white poppies with no shades of gray or any colors at all. I could tell this bias was based on his perspective about life, and I knew he wanted to spend more time with me because this was not his first or last attempt to do so. Oh my God, you poor, bored rock star, you, I said emphatically, inviting him to join Lucas and I for lunch. No, that's okay, he said. I'll just stay here with nothing to do. He briefly stuck his index finger in his nose, perhaps to emphasize his point more prominently. I ignored the behavior and moved on, as I looked at him and smiled from the mirror, knowing he wanted me to stay there with him. I said in a sing-song voice, "You are my poor, bored little rock star. What am I going to do with you?" He grinned, enjoying the teasing immensely. The energy with him was in such direct contrast to the forbidden energy with Anthony. I finished my makeup check and picked up my books to leave. As I was walking out the door, purse over my shoulder, books in hand, inspiration whispered in my ear. The room itself filled again with sunlight, reaching in with warm rainbow rays all around us. This gave rise to my next gesture, which was an unplanned, serendipitous ode to synchronicity on my part. It was proof of hope, my own hope for love, and the yearning to be free from all restrictions, self-made or otherwise. Standing by the door, which was now closed, I rummaged through my notebooks as he watched me with increased interest. I pulled out the bright yellow one, with the plethora of loose-leaf pages carefully placed inside, penned in my familiar spiral handwriting, and a few doodles here and there. The pages were neatly bound inside the yellow cover with blue, black, and purple ink, a finished compilation of my work and a lasting piece of my heart. I opened it and began thumbing through it, studying my own words, as Caesar, unmoving, eyes on me, wondered just exactly what I was doing. There were at least 20 to 30 pieces of work, some polished and some not. So many of my poems were streams of consciousness, with my heart crying out for a response from God and the universe. It was ironic to me that this body of work was contained inside a notebook that was yellow in color. I would have preferred purple, the opposite of yellow on the color wheel. I scanned several pages to remind myself of the precious content contained within the yellow binding, still not realizing the true value of what lay therein. As I thumbed through the pages and reached one of the very last pieces, my lyrics for the one song, I read through them carefully, hesitating, suspending in time, and taking it all in again. It was different than the others, with the others being dark and working out my heavily laden feelings of sadness, frustration, and anger with the world and the events that had taken place in my life. The one song, conversely, was filled with a hope and vision, and whatever inherent wisdom that I might have to offer to a world that I perceived as deeply steeped in suffering, loss, and division. It was multifaceted and demanded my review because it revealed a part of my heart that I had kept hidden. I hadn't shared it with anyone, not my friends or family, for a reason. It was private, my own secret hopes and dreams for the planet, along with my take on solutions to the problems that we all faced as a species. I wrote my message of love to a world in urgent need of care and concern, wrapped in the warm embrace of razor-sharp compassion. As I stared at the scribbled title where I had crossed out "thee" and "song," leaving only the title of one, I found myself wishing that I had redone the one song without all the scribbles, though I did hold firm to my message. War, famine, and suffering were human-caused, and so most certainly could be corrected by human kindness. The act of loving Mother Earth was simply understood to be a necessary extension of caring for ourselves and all the creatures with which we share our life on this planet. My love wasn't dainty or sentimental, with lyrics that demanded that each person stop pointing the finger of blame out there and instead look in the mirror and change themselves. If you don't want to be judged, then don't judge others. If you think that something needs to change, then change it in yourself first. If you believe that the world needs to be a better place, don't sit around and bitch about it. Change your own behavior and help others to do the same. And most of all, believe in the power of love to change yourself and the world, because it's the only thing that ever really has. The lyrics had no melody yet, though they expressed powerful thoughts and feelings in their own right nonetheless. I had a brief internal debate about whether I should or shouldn't share it with Caesar. I considered it carefully, in a timeless moment, as the sand poured through the center of an hourglass in time. So many feelings passed through me, especially the feeling of wondering whether I should reveal this soft and vulnerable part of myself. It was my own broken open heart, so tender with love and awareness that even I myself could not understand. How could I expect anyone else to understand me when I couldn't understand myself? This was my eternal conflict. My heart was so filled with hope and desperation and the aspiration to express truth and beauty in a world that felt both ugly and transcendently magnificent, all at the same time. It was an enigma, even to me. And then I stopped myself, as though responding to an internal alarm. Yes, I had to let go of it and let him read it. I carefully closed it, grabbing it by the open ends into my hand so that it would sail aerodynamically through the space between us. I let it fly, as if in a slow-motion dream, spiraling perfectly through the fluidity of the air. I watched calmly as it spanned the distance between us and landed right next to him on the bed. "Here, read this," I said plainly, without reservation. Based on his expression, you would have thought that he had never seen a notebook before in his life. He looked at it with a kind of odd contempt, most likely because that was not exactly what he had envisioned when he said that he was bored. But there it lay within his grasp, so he reluctantly reached out and touched it. I watched him, looking at me with an expression of curious confusion on his face. I said with great authority, love, and humor, "Well, you said you were bored. Read it." His face became receptive, though he continued to look at me with perplexity, eyebrows raised. His expression appeared to ask what could possibly be of interest to him in this bright yellow sunny notebook that was written by a 16-year-old girl. In the end, his curiosity won out, as he reluctantly picked it up and held it, while carefully opening the cover to reveal the sacred contents inside. I didn't realize it then, but he was holding my heart in his hands, and he began to read it. I watched every nuance on his face as the contents of the yellow notebook reached out to him like a window to another world and pulled him into itself. It was my heart telling its own story of truth that was pulling his into a shared reality between us. I observed as he became completely immersed in it, knowing that it was going to take him a while to finish the whole thing. It was the only time that I saw Caesar interested in something other than his own needs. I said, "I've got to go find Lucas or I'll be late." He looked up in disbelief from this unique and magical world that had already wrapped itself around him and held him to itself, heart to heart and soul to soul. I saw his eyes widen, and his expression changed to that of astonishment and wonder. "Wait, don't you want it?" he asked softly. I knew that if I took it away at that point, that he wouldn't finish reading it, and I intuitively understood that he needed to read the whole of it to receive the gift inside. "Keep it," I said. "There's plenty more where that came from. Maybe it'll be worth something someday." His response was a confused nod as he turned the pages, revealing the truth about me to him. Caesar belonged to the notebook now. "See you later," I said, and breezed out the same way that I had breezed in, leaving him reading my notebook, probably more confused than ever about me.